Hello everybody, this is Matt Guyan giving you another commentary. Someone requested that I do a commentary on the Willy Wonka review, so here I am. I was actually asked to do a commentary on both the Willy Wonka review and the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory review that would come later. I'm probably just going to do the one because I'll end up repeating myself a lot of times, but I'll talk about the Charlie review in this one. If there's one thing that I could do over, I would probably go back and not do 2 reviews for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, just because I did end up repeating myself a lot, and I think the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory review, the second one, is probably the weakest books versus movies review I've done for that reason. Partly for that reason, because I was repeating myself a lot in that one. This one I thought was pretty good. This is, the first 5 books versus movies reviews are, from the first initial era of books versus movies where I was still playing the clip directly on the television. I hadn't superimposed it yet. I was still using the really crappy screen capture. And I was still kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do with books versus movies. By about the 6th episode, I'd pretty much settled on a format and how I was going to handle things. But this is one, when I was watching it again, this is one that I really wouldn't mind going back and doing over with actual proper footage in there. I think it would. I think the writing in general is pretty solid. And the analysis is pretty good. Yeah, this is one of those that has actually a lot of differences, and I really enjoyed doing the analysis of this one, looking at the various differences between the book and the movie, because there are quite a few. And I talked about this a little bit, but I found out later that Roald Dahl was not really terribly pleased with the changes that were made in the movie. He's one of those authors, and there are a few of them. One of those authors that just doesn't like it when his work is messed with in the movie. I've gotten into a couple of comment arguments with people on this point that, because I'm basically criticizing Book Charlie for being good because he doesn't do anything. And it's not that I'm criticizing him, I'm just saying the fact that he stays out of trouble is good, it's fun, there's nothing wrong with it, but the fact that he stays out of trouble does not make for an interesting protagonist. And if you read the book, once they get to the factory and they're with all the other kids, Charlie's barely mentioned. It pretty much is just the other kids, because the other kids are the ones doing stuff. I mean, they're misbehaving, but they're the ones doing stuff. Charlie's just kind of staying in the background and not doing anything. And the other point is, Willy Wonka's looking for somebody to take over for him. You'd think he'd look for somebody with some initiative and some creativity. And Charlie doesn't really exhibit any signs of it. It's not that they're not there, necessarily, but he doesn't exhibit any signs of it in the book. And, you also want to look for somebody who's going to maybe experiment, even if it means not following the rules, necessarily. The only difference is that instead of getting turned into a blueberry or sent down the garbage chute, he and Grandpa Joe just get this movie, this movie actually did frighten me a little bit as a kid. Not there were a lot of aspects that didn't. Like, I loved this movie as a kid. I watched it all the time, but there was one scene as a kid that I could not watch. Like, I don't even remember really why, but the scene where Augustus falls into the chocolate river and they get sucked up the chute. For some reason, I refused to watch that scene. I just could not watch that scene. I would leave the room, or I would fast forward it until Augustus was out of the chute and it disappeared. And then for the rest of it, I was fine. Veruca falling down the garbage chute, Violet turning into a blueberry. I was fine with that, But for some reason, Augustus Gloop falling into the chocolate river was too much for me. I really don't know why. Something about that scene unnerved me. And I didn't realize what a substantial role Slugworth played until I watched the movie again. He really does. He really does play a substantial role in the story, and I think I would guess that Slugworth is the invention of the uncredited screenwriter. I think his name is David Seltzer, something like that. but he did a lot of the script doctoring for this movie because Roald Dahl wrote the original script, but he doctored a lot of it. And I suspect that Slugworth might be him, might be his invention. There's a character named Slugworth who is mentioned as one of the Wonka's competitors in the book, but I have a feeling that that his role in the movie is an invention of Seltzer. I love Gene Wilder. I absolutely love Gene. I couldn't. I got comments from people saying that they were bored by Gene Wilder's Willy Wonka, and I couldn't believe that. Like, I love Gene Wilder's portrayal of Willy Wonka. Like, he's just fun. He's kind of, reserved a lot of times and very calm and cool, but that's what makes him fun. That's what makes him enjoyable to watch. All these chaotic things are happening in the background, and he just kind of shrugs his shoulders and goes, whatever. It's just fun, and he's not always the nicest in that way because he just kind of lets things happen, but it's still a lot of fun to watch.
Was a little bit more reserved. But in a way, that's one of the cooler things about movie world.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm saying right now. He's reserved, and that's what makes him cool.
Every time it looked like one of the kids was about to get into trouble.
And I guess since I said I was going to talk about the other movie too in this one, there's a misperception that I hate that movie, that I hate Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the one with Johnny Depp and the one that Tim Burton did. I don't. I really don't. I don't hate that version. I was a little harsh with it in the review, and I'll freely admit that. But I do not hate that movie. It's enjoyable to watch in a lot of ways, but I don't think it's enjoyable to watch for the reasons that it was intended to be enjoyable to watch. And even Johnny Depp's portrayal, like, it makes me laugh at times, but it makes me laugh mostly because it's so annoying, if that makes any sense. Like, it makes me laugh, but again, not for the reasons that it's, I think, intended to make you laugh.
I will say that the book shows a lot more evidence of Wonka's brilliance, both with the stories and also with the factory itself. But Wonka's self-confidence
and the Wonka, both the reviews, these are the only two books versus movies reviews where the winner of the review has won 4 out of the 5 categories. It's usually a tie up until the last category, and then whoever wins the last category wins the review. This is the only time where that's not the case. It's not a tie going into the last category. There are 5 categories in both cases, and in this case, the movie wins 4 out of 5. And in the other one, the book wins 4 out of 5. I try to find reviews where it's going to be a tie, but I don't always succeed. And this one was just so fascinating and recognizable because it's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Once again, movie gets the point.
Yeah, you can see me turning away from the computer screen in that last shot. I've gotten better about avoiding those shots. They still sneak in every so often where I turn my head away at the very beginning or the very end of the shot or something. But I've gotten better about editing those out.
Georgina, Josephine, and of course, good old Grandpa Joe.
This is one thing that I do appreciate about the new version. It's the one thing that kind of redeems it for me, is that the other characters in the Tim Burton version are very, very good. They're very well conceived and well constructed. I'm not crazy about Wonka, and I'm not crazy about Charlie, but I love the other characters in that movie. The other kids are wonderful. The parents are wonderful. The grandparents are great. I love that they actually give the other grandparents some personality. In this one, like, George and Georgina are asleep for most of it, but they actually make Grandpa George in the new version do something of a, interesting character, kind of a curmudgeon with a heart of gold type of character, I think is what I say in the review.
Speaking of which, let's look at Grandpa Joe.
Yeah. And I do love the mother in the movie. I really do. She is such a wonderful character. A really, it's one of those cases where she's a single mother. I mean, she's got the 4 grandparents, but she's a single mother. The father, she's a widow, but she is a very strong character. She takes care of her family with very, very little, and she does a good job, and she does a good job raising Charlie. And she's really given a lot of weight in the movie, and I really do appreciate that about the movie.
If not more so, of finding a golden ticket. And it's not even so much so that they can get out of poverty.
Oh, Grandpa Joe.
His grandson to feel hope for something, and this is the easiest thing available.
This is an interesting character trait because Grandpa Joe is in many ways more of a troublemaker than Charlie. Like it's his idea to try the fizzy lifting drinks, and he's the one who's pushing Charlie. You deserve to have more. He's basically encouraging him to be more selfish. But it's one of those things where it's like this is a family with not a lot of means, and Charlie, and therefore not a lot of hope. And children, he believes very passionately should have hope, and so he tries to give Charlie hope in something, even if it's something as kind of pedantic, if that's the right word, as winning this contest.
I also like the book Violet more. I think with the gum chewing doll was kind
of this was always my thing with the old movie too, with the other characters. Augustus, I don't know if it's just because he doesn't have enough screen time, or he was a German actor, so maybe he didn't speak a whole lot of English, but he doesn't seem that bad. Like, again, he's not that fat, really. He doesn't look like a glutton. We see him eating dinner at the beginning, but he's just eating dinner. I mean, it's not like he's stuffing his face. He's just eating dinner. So yeah, Augustus never seemed like that bad a kid. He wasn't around long enough for us to really get an idea of how bad a kid he was. Violet was the same. I realized that upon rewatching it. She's kind of a brat, but I mean, she is a little girl. A lot of little girls are brats, and she's certainly not as spoiled as Veruca. Yeah, Veruca gets a lot of screen time.
Right before she falls down the garbage chute. I don't know why Veruca gets so much attention, but it kind of makes sense in a way. I mean, if anyone in this story is an attention whore, it's Veruca. But for me,
that occurred to me as I was watching. Veruca gets a lot of screen time. Well, that makes sense. I mean, if anyone's going to be hogging the limelight, hogging the camera in this movie, it should be Veruca.
Like, I love that Violet's father is a used car salesman.
Yeah, the parents in this are really, really interesting. Like they're almost throwaway characters in the book, but in here, they actually have personalities. And I love this is again one of those things that I really didn't notice until I rewatched it. But I love how they're all giving him advice. Like they're all telling, and this is so true of parents. They all think that they could do the job better than the person who's actually doing the job. You find this a lot in, I mean, I'm going to be in the band world, of course, and I've been in the theater world for, some time in my life. So it's interesting to see that very, very true parental dynamic. Everyone thinks they could do a better job than the person who's actually doing the job. And it's so much fun to watch those parents kind of, bickering with Wonka, saying, no, you should do it this way, no, you should do it this way. And it really brings that point home at the end, about how adults want to do everything their own way. And that's totally true. They always want to do everything their own way.
Both book and movie really capture the spirit of imagination that is inherent with this story. The movie even has a song about it. Designer Harper
pure imagination. That's a great song. I love the music in Willy Wonka. And again, it was one of those things where I didn't remember. I mean, obviously everyone knows Pure Imagination. Like that's that's like the quintessential song. And the one at the beginning, the Candyman Can, is another good one. But I didn't realize until I rewatched it. Like I've Got a Golden Ticket. Like I didn't realize how really good that song was. It's a shame that neither one of the two people that were singing that song could actually sing, but the lyrics are pretty clever, and the song is catchy and interesting, and I really do like it. And the mother's song too, Cheer Up Charlie, that's also a really, really touching song. So lots of good music in this. Oh, that chocolate river. Even as a kid, I was like, that's not chocolate. Because my family, you might have seen videos from it, my family actually makes candy, like hand-dipped candy over Thanksgiving, and so I know what a puddle of chocolate looks like, or a river of chocolate would look like, and that ain't it.
And it's a scene that would not have worked in the movie, because it's a very text-based joke. So while the sets and images from the movie are brilliant, they are still somewhat...
If you've ever read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and you know what chapter I'm talking about here, like the one that's really clever and is really cool to read, that wouldn't have transferred over to the movie, the one I was just talking about. If you know which chapter that is, let me know in comments. I want to see if anybody knows what I'm talking about here.
Yes. Yes, you have. Nevertheless,
again, this is back when Movie Matt and Book Matt were interacting more than they are. than they have been. Although there's going to be a little bit more interaction in upcoming reviews. I'll kind of give that away. There will be a little bit. David Seltzer, yeah, I was right.
But the screenplay is essentially
Yeah.
Dahl's.
The more I've heard about kind of the behind the scenes stuff with Roald Dahl and David Seltzer, the more I think David Seltzer probably wrote a fair amount of what's memorable about this movie. I imagine that Roald Dahl's rendition of the screenplay was probably a lot like the book. And the story that I like, I watched some of the behind the scenes footage, and one of the scenes that one of the interviews, they were interviewing the director, and he said the original screenplay ended with the doctor, not the doctor, what doctor, what? Ended with Grandpa. The last line of the script was Grandpa yelling "Yippee," which is very Roald Dahl. But he basically said, no, we are not ending this movie with "Yippee." And so he called, I think David Seltzer was on vacation at the time, he called him up and he said, you've got to fix the ending. And so he, very quickly wrote this, They Lived Happily Ever After thing, and he pitched it to him, and he said, all right, we'll do it. And that's, of course, the ending, and that's, again, one of the really, really memorable, yeah. I mean, Grandpa, in the song, Grandpa at least is sort of in tune. Charlie's not even close. Yeah. But anyway, the ending is one of the really memorable things I think about the movie. It's one of the more memorable lines, and definitely the thing that people take away from the movie. And so it's it wouldn't have had near the impact I think if it had just been Grandpa yelling "Yippee." Oh, I couldn't believe this song when I read the book again. Like, it had been a really long time since I'd read the book, and I knew that he had written, like, lyrics to the... He'd written the Oompa Loompa songs. He'd written, like, poems, and he did that actually a lot in his books. But... the first three songs are basically just like the cautionary tales, but the last song, the television song, oh my God, it was angry. It was mean. It was almost mean, really. It was so passionately angry against television. Like, he was very adamant. Kids should not watch television. Television will rot their brains. Like, it was very uncompromising.
Rather than hearing about how crazy this contest is, we actually get to see it.
Oh, I love these vignettes. I love the news reports. I love the little vignettes. They add nothing to the plot. They could be cut from the movie altogether, but they are so fun. They are so funny. And I really do think they add a lot to the kind of the whimsical nature of the story, and the atmosphere of the story, and how much this kind of took over the whole world, really. Like, this is a big deal. It's almost satirical in a way, and I love that. I absolutely love it when they get to throw a little bit of satire in this kind of thing. And again, it's one of those things, I've said this a lot in this commentary, it's one of those things that I really did not catch until I watched it again. Yeah, this ending, again, I'm fairly sure was David Seltzer's. It's in the book, Wonka just kind of turns to Charlie and said, oh, you're the last one left. Congratulations, you're my heir. And that's it. That's the end of the story. Actually, both movies kind of tweaked that a little bit. Both movies. This one, of course, had the angry outburst at the end. And then, the other one had, Charlie basically saying, I'm not leaving my family, you can't ask me to do this, and they had, Wonka had to come to terms with his father, all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. Because that one was more about Wonka than it was about Charlie. But yeah, both of them really kind of tweaked that ending, and kind of made it more than it was originally. I should probably, real quick, address this laughter that's going to happen here at the end. This was back when I was still feeling like I needed to make all the endings gimmicky, and I could not for the life of me think of how to end this review. So I just decided I'm going to have Book Matt just start laughing hysterically when he brings up the next review, and I'll figure out what the laugh is about later, and I never really did. It didn't work very well at all, so that's another thing that I would change. Like, the laughter was not necessary, and it really didn't work. Alright, that's it. Bye.